Okay, so let's begin. Sit well. And the first thing we always do is come to the breath. And in Ashaya Yoga, that's the first essential is to open. And you'll notice the physical body. How is the physical body breathing this morning? For me, I've been rushing around trying to set up a new little tech setup here. So hopefully it will be easier for other teachers. And so I'm feeling a little fluttery, a little kicking. So we settle. And as you connect to the physical body and your energy body, then you invite a deeper, fuller breath. That's a super long one for tall people like you. Are you expecting someone else? And as we settle, consider the rest of your day. It might be full of things to do. It might be kind of open and spacious. Bless you for that. Whatever it is for you between a crazy mixed up day and open and spacious, be present with it, be settled in it. And if it's a busy day, then see yourself moving through that day with a sense of ease. Efficiency, yes, but easefulness, a sense of well-being. And if your day is open and spacious, and you have that gift of space today, then see yourself moving through it with gratitude for that space. There's so many people for whom this day is just one more crazy stress-filled day. So be grateful that you have that space. It won't always be that way. And draw your palms together in front of your heart center. We'll do a soft Om. Inhale. Release the hands, flutter the eyes open. And take your ball and begin to either roll it between the hands or roll it. You guys on screen know, except maybe for Rhonda. If you don't have a ball, Rhonda, I don't have one with me right now, then we'll do it by hand. So you just start to rub first into the palm of the hand and then around the edges. But Chris, you have a ball so you can roll out each hand to open up the fascia. If you press it on the floor and really put some weight on it, and find the places all around the hand that need a little wake up. This is to bring more circulation and release any fascia. And then if you're doing it by hand, begin to kind of squeeze, twist, and turn each finger. If you're doing it on the ball, then rinse, roll the ball from the base of the wrist to the thumb, the base to the finger. You're just rolling it back and forth. It's called rinsing. And then just pause a minute and notice the difference between the two hands. And switch to the other hand. So either press and roll, or we're doing it by hand. We're rubbing out the palms, the heel of the hand, maybe raking it with the knuckles, and then rinse. So with the ball, you're rolling it over the ball. Otherwise, we're tugging, turning, pulling each finger, massaging all the way to the tips. So you can do either way, is quite lovely. And then release. And just hold your hands out to receive what today brings you. Notice that they're feeling a little tingly, perhaps. I love that. And then really shake them off like there's no paper towels in the bathroom. Really make the fingers pop. Shake them high, shake them low, shake them out, shake them forward, and release. And now notice the tingle. Hold that little, I call it my imaginary ball of energy between the tingling of the hands. Just notice it. Great. All right. Come to hands and knees. So Ruby, this is cat-cow on the chair, or you can always do it on the wall where the knees stay soft, so you're not bending and straightening the knees. But for the mere mortals of us, on our hands and knees, spread the hands, and from the hips, tip the tailbone down, lift your waistline, bow your head. Inhale, lift your sits bones, slide your shoulder blades on the back, lift the collarbones, lift the head. Round and arch. So Ruby, bend your knees a little bit more, a lot more. There you go. Widen your hands a little bit farther apart. Now just rock and roll your hips. Ah, yeah, that's it. But don't straighten and bend the legs at the same time. It's harder on the wall sometimes. There's more coordination. Wherever you are on this, work it. Let's wake up the spine. Roll through it. Just see the undulating wave from the tip of the tailbone to the crown of the head. Oh. So when the hips are tight, it means your diaphragm muscle is probably not getting its full power, which means that's connected to the psoas. So that keeps the hips tighter. It's just all connected in there. And when the hips are tight, our hamstrings are tight, no matter how much we stretch them, they will not release. And if the hips are tight, most likely your breath is not moving fully. So we open it up. And the next time you come to center, pause and table, tuck the toes of the right foot. So Ruby, just like this. So you'll be here and you'll just stretch the right foot back. And then lift the right leg as you, if your hands and knees, extend the right leg. Keep the belly button lifted and engage the core, lift the leg. So you just lift the right leg, without tilting your hip. So the tendency to lift the right hip is high. Keep it level like you have your favorite beverage resting on your sacrum. And then stretch your left arm forward. So Ruby, what you can do is come to the fingertips of your left hand and maybe walk it up and out. Not the right hand, just like put more, there you go. Just play with your balance there. Nice, excellent. And release. Tuck the toes of the left foot, slide it back, stretch it out. Oh, it's so good. Now lift the side waistline and soften between your shoulder blades. So we're not hanging the head in desperation here. That rounds the upper back. Keep the core strong, lift the left leg. No more than hip height. Lower if that's what works for you. And then either walk the right fingertips out and just play with your balance here, or stretch the right arm out into full bird dog. Nice. So you're playing. Now notice, have you started to hold your breath as things get a little more complicated? Yep, that happens. So invite a deeper, fuller breath here, and that may cause you to wobble more. You're just having more fun if you're rocking and rolling a little more. And release. Nice. For those of us on the floor, widen the knees, toes together, shift back, find a block, and rest your forehead on your hands. And Ruby, you can come to a nice, easy standing position. Ah, yes, I like that. Ruby just leaned her head on the wall. So when we press the head on something, just rest the head, then we can release the back of the neck, the space between the shoulder blades. So there's a reason your elementary school teacher would suggest that children put their head on their desk to quiet them down. We do that when things get difficult. We'll put our head down or put our head in our hands. It's natural. The problem comes if you keep lifting your head and slamming it back into the desk or the wall. That not so bueno, it doesn't lead to a sustainable act. All right, come on up. For those of us on the floor, walk your knees back a few inches and your hands forward, coming into wall dog there, half forward bend. Right, for those on the floor, claw the floor, shift your hips back and come into upside down letter V. Keep the knees soft, lift your sits bones, and stretch it out. Walk your dog, bending one knee and then the other. And widen your feet a little bit apart. If you're on the floor, walk your hands back to your feet, come into a forward bend. Can place your forearms on your thighs into half forward bend so the spine can be long, and you lift the hips, lift the sits bones more. So you're not so much getting a stretch in the low back, you're feeling it in the hamstrings. And if you're still feeling it in the low back, because your hips are probably tucked and you're rounding. Hands on your hips, shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and hinge from the hips, not roll up, but hinge, and come all the way to standing. Rise up. Yay, and release. Find your spiky ball or ball. It can be a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball. We'll work out the feet. All right, so with the ball, and Rhonda, if you do not have a ball today, what you'll do is take a seat on a chair or the floor. You'll cross one foot over and you'll start to give yourself a foot massage. If you've got any peppermint foot cream handy, use that. No, I'm kidding. That'll make you slippery on your mat. So you can roll it out. You'll do the same thing, tugging the toes. Otherwise, if you have a tennis ball, lacrosse ball, or one of our special spiky balls, spiky ball just hurts more. But as Ruby says, it feels so good when it stops. So what we're doing here, besides just causing unnecessary pain and suffering on the bottom of the feet, is bringing more circulation to the bottom of the foot and opening the back fascial train there. It rolls all the way up from the bottom of the feet to the back of the head. And I feel this sometimes when I'm rolling out the feet. I feel it comes somewhere up the back, sometimes up the back of the head. If you're giving it, you may not feel that, it's not required, but it's all connected. We treat things like we have a foot doctor, which, I'm glad we have these things, and we have a hand doctor, and we have a individual, but it's a system. It's all connected. The more we understand that, the better. Then rinse it, roll it. And Rhonda, if you're not using a ball, take your knuckles and just rake them up and down your foot, like you're scrubbing off something with your knuckles. And then pause, stand, or just sit if you're seated, and notice the difference between the two sides. And yes, Ruby, this is when I go, it feels good, it feels better, and I'm glad it's over on that side. All right, one more foot. Thankfully, we are not like the Hindu deities with multiple legs and arms, where we would be here all morning working out all our hands and arms. All right, so I start with a press, just pressing all the spots, putting as much weight on the ball. You can hold on to the wall, chair. If balance is an issue, don't add any more complication than you have to, and press it out. So you guys at home will notice I'm kind of wearing my yoga pajamas today. It's like, I just didn't feel like pulling on the uniform, Just wanted something. I didn't want to get out of my pajamas, but I knew I had to. All right, roll it, scrub it. Again, Randy, take your knuckles and rub it up and down. That feels really good too. You can do this little piggy went to market by kind of pulling and squeezing each toe. And release. Send the ball off to the side and pick up your strap. If you don't have an official, yes, it's hanging back there, yoga strap, Then a man's tie works really well. A sash to your robe. And if you don't have a strap at all this morning, no problem. Just pretend you do. All right. So take the strap overhead and pull down. So notice as you start to lift the arms, you don't have to take them all the way back. If I take them too far back, then my ribs pop out and I lose the core. So as you stand, lower the arms for a minute, lift all 10 toes of those nice fresh toes, press into the four corners of the feet, soften the knees, and lower your arms a minute, Chris. There, otherwise they just get too warm. Hug the heels towards each other energetically. Soften your knees, keep the heels hugging, and move the inner thighs back. So you come into kind of a duck butt position. We won't stay here. Keep that, and as you engage the tailbone long, press down into the feet, and the toes then slide along the floor. They don't grip, they press. Keep that, zip it up here, so it's like you're pulling a tight pair of jeans and zipping them up, a tight jacket and zip them up. And I know with COVID spread, that's a reality for me these days. So pull it in. Freshman 15, COVID, I don't know, I'm not telling. Okay, pull down, bend the arms like you're pulling a lat bar, and you're pulling the elbows back, but not so much that your bottom ribs poke out. So you've got to play the edge. And then just push down from the legs more, reach up, get long, and curl back. Not just with the head. The head, actually, the neck is long. The back of the neck is long. Oh, morning back bend. And release. Take the strap behind you. I think I need to get a hot pink strap so you can see it against my dark clothes and that stuff on the screen. All right, again, you can first stand, legs are strong, hug the heels, inner thighs move back and apart, tailbone down. Bottom ribs knit down towards the pelvis as the arms lift. Now what happens here is a lot of times we will roll forward and dump the head when we start to reach a point of this doesn't feel good. So I'd lower the arms, move the head of the arm bones back, the head moves back, and you're just lifting the arms. Oh. Feeling an opening in the chest. Oh, feels so good. And release. Shake off. All right, set the strap aside for a moment, or 2, or 5. All right, stand well. Take a wide stance, and Ruby, you will eventually have your bum. You can do this on. You can either do this up against the wall, if you want to try that, or you can always sit on the chair. So we'll be doing some of this. Yeah, use the chair if you want to. So take a wide stance. So you guys are facing me. Turn your left toes towards the short edge of your mat. And the back foot pretty much is where it needs to be. Work the whole foot down, Ruby. Don't let it roll to the, stretch towards the baby toe side. The whole sole of the back foot is on the floor. Ah, there we go. But turn the back toes in a little bit. Back toes turn towards the baby Ganesha wall. Keep turning. There you go. Now reach out through the baby toe side. A lot of times we roll over. We press out towards the outer edge. Bend the left knee. Then the left knee is now your front knee. Hands on your shoulders right over your hips. The tendency to tilt is strong because as we lift up, we start to feel more things going on. Stretch the arms out, warrior 2. So your chest, the shoulders are lining up with the long edge of your mat. So Ruby, bring your left shoulder a little bit forward. Yeah, there you go. Your alt left shoulder, there you go. Good. All right. And then reverse warrior 2. The right hand goes down, holds onto the leg and back. Grab your inner right thigh and lift it up outside, but from the back. Lift up there. Now bend more through the front knee and look up into the palm of your hand. Oh, yeah. Steady in the legs. Free, open, and joyous in the heart, the upper body. You may say, I don't know about that. Inhale, come back up. It's like Silver Alexa, and straighten. Turn the toes in. If you want to step in just to release a bit, it's like a little sherbet between course relief. All right, turn your right toes out. The whole back left foot is on the floor. As you press more through the outer edge of the foot, the baby toe side tacks down, work the outer edge, yeah, and then you pull the foot towards you. Feel a nice stretch on the outside of the ankle. When's the last time you stretched the outer ankle? This doesn't happen. Bend the front knee. It's right over the ankle, not forward of the ankle and not to the inside or the outside. It's right on top of the ankle joint. That means you have to scissor the legs in and pull in. Stretch the arms. It's just a lift. So the arms are not hard. The shoulder blades move down the back as the arms lift. Nice. And then the shoulders are square, lined up parallel with the short edge of the mat. Bend the front knee a little bit more and scissor the legs. Notice if your shoulders are right over your hips. So Chris, you're doing a little bit of this, pull back. There. You just feel a little bit different in the legs. Then you're set to reverse warrior two, reach the back inner edge of the back thigh and pull it, lift it back and up, and then turn and gaze lovingly at the mirror in the palm of your hand. And breathe. The steady gaze. Come back up and release. Step in, shake off. Oh, careful. There you go. Good recovery. No man down from that one. Let's try again. We'll see if we're more successful next time. Yeah, I'd move the ball off so you don't step on it. That would be not so fun. All right, take another wide stance. So we'll do triangle, but without a block. We're not trying to come to the floor at this point. Yes, and so Ruby, what I would suggest for you is to back up to the wall, take a wide stance, and then you'll work the hips off the wall eventually, but it's there for you. So you don't do a roll like that. The wide stance, again, turn your left toes towards the, so you'll be parallel, right? Back foot stays in and down. Now both legs are straight. Pull up from the soles of the feet, pull up into the core of the pelvis, and then keep that and send the energy back down and out. So it's like you're pulling the feet to the midline as you're pushing the feet away from each other. Kind of like life, right? Between a rock and a hard place, trying to do it all. Hands on the hips, lift up and out and just tilt until you feel a stretch, inner thigh or hamstring. That may happen pretty quickly for a lot of people. So Chris, what you might do, turn your other mat to go long way on the wall. And that way you can stand against the wall like Ruby for balance. I love to do triangle against the wall. So if at home you've got a wall, make use of it. It's one of my favorite ways to do triangle. And that way you can move your shoulders and even the top shoulder back towards the wall. Nice. But the back hip is not on the wall. Your front hip might be on the wall. Hands on the hips. You're feeling a stretch here. Then stretch the left arm down and the inside, somewhere on the inside of your front leg, which is your left leg. So you back up to where you are on the wall, Chris. So back your feet up where you're all the way on the wall. There you go. Now turn your left foot out, all your left feet. There you go. And you tilt from the hips. Press. So as you press the left arm into the inside of the left leg pushes back. And then take the head of the right arm bone back and just gaze up out of the corner of your eyes up to the ceiling. Nice. And then using the legs really strong, don't release. Push down, use the core to come up. And release if you want to shake off, otherwise stay in the wide stance. We'll be right back there. So keep in mind that coming out of poses is easier to hurt yourself coming out of poses than going in. It's possible both ways. So if you want to be really crazy, then hurt yourself. No, but that's why I spend so much time working on the legs to hug them up and in, because if you come out of a pose like this with the legs sloppy, you have to pull, the low back has to take the weight. your legs aren't doing their job. So you want the legs to be strong. So turn your right toes now to face the short edge of the mat or parallel with the wall. Back foot stays where it is, working to the outer edge of the foot. Scissor the legs in. So pull them in until you feel the inner thigh muscles working. Keep that. And from the outer edges of the legs, push out. Don't lose the pull in. Make a face as you need to. Hands on the hips, lengthen up out. So make the armpits go as far away from the hips as you can, and then hug the shoulder blades on the back without bending this knee or locking it. So for those of you who tend to collapse and lock the straight, and it looks straight, feels bent. Tilt until you feel a really delicious stretch right in here. If you're feeling it right behind the knee, it means you're locking your knee. So you've got to press the shin forward isometrically. The right arm goes down and presses somewhere along the inside of the right leg, and the right leg pushes back. So this arm's trying to move that way, and the front leg's trying to move forward. The right arm's moving back, and they meet in the middle. Keep the hand on the left hand on your hip, and then move the head of the arm bone back towards the wall. The center back of the head touches or moves towards the wall. Oh. And on the inhale, use the legs. Press from the core of the pelvis down through the legs to hinge up from the hips. Nice. Step it in. All right. Couple more. Find a block. You can do this close to the wall, so just pick up a block. Hold it between the hands. I didn't get far enough away. All right, and you're standing about hip width apart. Hold on to the block and stretch it up. And start to shift your weight into your heels, come into like a chair. So the bum goes back and you're doing a little cobra back. You're pulling up. Yes, the arms can come forward if it's tight. So Ruby, you can pull them forward. Yeah, and then pull the shoulder blades on the back without bending the elbows. Oh, that keeps you busy. Now tilt to the right without moving the hips. Keep pressing the block and not folding over. You're keeping the top shoulder back. Press the block. Oh. Push down through the legs, push the block, and come to standing. Release the arms for a minute. Aren't we glad this is not a 10-pound weight? I'm telling you, using these blocks in isometric ways is as good as using weights. So you're pressing the block, not trying to kill it, but if your elbows bend, that's okay, but keep pressing the block. If your elbows bend, when you're here, like you can't get them straight, that's fine. You can pull them forward slightly and bend them out, but pull the shoulder blades down the back. Don't want to round over any more than we already do. All right, come to side B. Feet firm. Bum goes back, like you're reaching for the chair. Where is it? Where is it? And the arms can come forward, it's fine. And then tilt to the left. It's not a big tilt. If you have to roll down, you're tilting too much. Keep the right shoulder back. Don't let the right shoulder fold, curl forward. Bend your knees more, send your bum back. It's like really awkward air chair pose. And press down to hinge up and come up. Make circles with the shoulders, release, and come to sit on the floor. And yeah, you'll need your strap here, Ruby, and all of us. So I recommend sitting on a blanket or a block, 2 blocks, especially if the hips are tight. Oh. And if you sit at all during the day, they're tight. All right. So we'll do the isometric work. Put the feet, the legs are about hip width apart. Put the strap around the soles of the feet. If you go back and forth, it kind of gives them a little friction. Then I suggest a double wrap just so the hands don't have to work so hard. Slide your hands down the strap so the elbows come right up against your ribs. So That's a good tower, Chris. I'm just concerned. What would happen if you put the 2 blocks this way and sat on them a little lower? Would that work? I'm just concerned about falling off that. It's not so comfortable either to sit on those tiny little blocks. All right. As you pull the strap, you can pull the chest through, the elbows move back, and you lift the chest. And now, see your legs as one unit from the hip socket all the way down. And you're moving out from the hip socket on the exhale. We take a big inhale, exhale, push the legs up against the strap, not just with the feet, but all the way from the hip socket, like widen the inner thighs. So Chris, widen your feet to where they're hip width apart, straight up and down. Now lift up and pull, even if you tilt back this way, so you can, I call it the sort of ratchet your lawn chair back, so the back can be long rather than sit up this way. It's better to be back here if here is not an option. Nice. Now on the exhale, keep pushing out. The inhale, just soften. Can't really see anything in this. Exhale, push out from the hip socket, push out against the strap. Heels stay down on the floor. And then on your inhale, you just release the work a tiny bit, not completely give up. Exhale, push out. If you're getting tired, you're working a little too hard. Oh, Siri and I, we just don't get along. Sorry. Push out. She just pops up. I don't want her. I tell her to go away. I try to insult her. She's not insulted. She just keeps coming back. What? Tell me.
TV series where computers taking over the world.
Are they next? Is it Next? Is that what it's called? Where the computers are taking over the world. Yeah, well, she's definitely trying to just irritate me. Yeah. So you're just pushing out on the X. Really, you'll start to feel the hip flexors work because you're pushing out with the legs. You're pushing out from here. It's not just the feet. And then release, push out, release. It's a little pulse. And you're engaging the core in a good, Ruby, the posture's great, lifting up, very nice, pushing out. And then just release a moment and can bend and windshield wiper, just something easy, relaxed. Anything that releases the tension. Now, round 2, wide. Lasso the feet. Slide your hands probably to the very end. If you're very long, you're just barely tall, you're barely holding on. Maybe you'll have room to double wrap. I find the double wrap and just don't have to grip with the fingers so hard. And since I'm of a certain age, my fingers don't like gripping the whole time. So widen the feet. Now, if you're really tight, so Chris, what I would suggest is that you bend the knees, widen the legs, wide, 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 wide. Bend your knees, pull your heels back, keep the knees bent, and then lift the chest this way. Even if you need to tilt back, keep lifting, nice, but keep your knees bent. Keep your knees bent. Now everybody bend your knees, try that. Dig your heels into the earth and pull the heels back without straightening the legs. Pull the heels back, lift the chest more. Now you're just tilting up, so you lift up and out of your hips and tilt forward from the sits bones. But if the inner thighs and the hamstrings will not let you, then don't do it. Getting a cramp there? Just release it. Come in and out. So if you can, bring your hands to the inner edge of the knees or the thighs. If your knees are bent, this is easier. Pull the hands to the inside, Chris, like this. You're here? Yeah. Press your inner thighs up against your hands and push back with the hands to feel a bigger stretch in the inner thighs. Tilt forward. Oh. And now push out from the core of the pelvis, out into the strap, and just soften a bit. Push out and soften. Push out. Keep the knees soft and bent. You can have them quite a bit bent, especially if your hips are tight. This is one way to work deep. Oh, and release. Enough of that. So, Allison, keep track of your time and go into a little Shavasana before we do. just so you have that before you move into your day of homeschool teaching. We've got a little more time here. All right. So Ruby, you'll just sit in the chair and do this. For those of us on the floor, move your feet to the right, bend your knees if this works for you. I think you'll be fine just sitting straight because we'll do a twist. And then you can use your blocks. They're kind of helpful to take the blocks and walk around. So Ruby, what you'll do is sit in the chair and do this twist where you're working on the inside. You can reach for the back of the chair there. All right. So if you take your blocks around, lift your bum, and just keep walking around to the back. Oh. So Ruby, not for you, your right hip will stay down. But for those of on the floor, you have a lot of weight on your left hip. The right hip comes off the floor. Let it come off the floor. Don't try to keep it back. Just move all the way around. And then to a point where maybe you can come to your forearms on the blocks as high as the blocks need to be, or maybe, you can come down to the floor. So from the side, it looks this way. Just trying to walk around to meet your feet behind you. And then press the inner right knee into the earth and stretch away from it to get a big, long stretch along the right side. And for me, this gets in the QL, the quadratus lumborum, which is very tight for me. I had a massage yesterday and she said, ooh, that's quite tight. And work the right armpit away from the right knee. And inhale, come back to center. And take the feet to your left. Yeah, that's a nice adaptation. That works for you? Yeah, that looks good. Ruby's creating over there. I love it. You've added to my chair repertoire. And then you just walk around. Now I find it's a little helpful if you pick your hip up and roll to the outer right hip. If it feels stuck, then just scooch it back. Scooch being a too technical term, I realize, for this early in the morning, but now press the inner left knee into the earth. Press it down. And reach up and away from it so you feel a little stretch, especially on the front of the left belly here. And then start to work around behind you. Come onto your forearms wherever that works, as high as the blocks want to go, just to get off your hands. You can be on your hands. It's just nice to get off the wrist. And then stretch the left armpit away from the left knee as the left knee is moving away from the left armpit. Shoulder blades hug the back. Feel that nice, just gets everything. Psoas, QL, some of the side obliques. Oh, it's so nice. And release. Come to lie on your back. Ruby will do some core, and this is the seated where you'll do it. You can have a block between the knees, and remember you kind of come to your tiptoes and you work the core that way. So for the rest of us, lie on the back. You can get to these muscles from just about any position. Now the sun is really coming in. All right. Knees bent, feet on the floor. Come to anatomical neutral. So the hips are tilting, the sits bones are moving towards your heels to get the low back off the floor. That's cow position when we're on hands and knees. This is the cow position. The low back is off the floor, keep it off the floor, and the belly button drops towards the spine. It moves the back waist towards the floor a tiny bit, but just enough so you can get a pencil all the way under your back waist. And then snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you, tack the head of the arm bones down so you lift the heart. place the block between your knees. The arms either out in a T position. I like them down by my side, and even robot arms or bookend arms I find helpful as well. Keeps the chest from collapsing. Now come to your tippy toes, squeeze the block, and lift the knees so they're right over the hips. So Ruby, for you, what you'll do is just keep the belly button pulled up and in, keep your heart lifted. You can reach around behind and hold behind the chair, to help you stay uplifted. There, oh yeah, and you're putting a block under your feet, that's good. And then you just start to hover the toes off the ground if you're in a chair. For those of us on the floor, the feet are fully off the ground. Now you can ratchet up the volume here, just don't change your low back position. If you lift the shins to parallel to the floor, like you fell over in a chair. So this is essentially what Ruby's doing, but she's upright. And she's just trying to hover her feet off the ground. And then you can always, Ruby, put them down as you need to. Once you feel any kind of core work go into the neck, the chest, or the inner thighs, it means the core quit a while back. So you come back and you reset, pull it in. It's called wimpy abs. We stay here long enough, I can make grown men cry. But we won't go there. All right. Belly button drops towards the spine. The tendency to pop the ribs and the belly out with this is strong. That will only strain your low back. So cinch it in like you have a belt around, cinching in around your waist, a corset even pulling in all the way from back, side, and front. All right. If you need a rest, if you can stay, stay. If you need a rest, just release the feet to the floor, particularly if you're feeling a lot of work in the inner groins, the inner thighs. It means the core is not doing its job. So come in and out of it more often. So you can really activate the core, feel the core, pull it up. Once the core quits, you start to feel it below or above the core, the neck, the jaw gets tight. We start to squeeze the teeth together, thinking that will help. Doesn't. So just come in and out of it so you can keep resetting. There's no point in straining. I don't know, spent plenty of years doing that. I realized there's no point. Come back, reset if you haven't already stayed there. Low back is off the floor. Back waist is just curling off the floor slightly. And the belly button goes down to the spine without smashing the back waist into the floor. Snuggle the shoulder blades underneath you. And now this time, we'll turn, we'll get out of the sun. You'll just rock the knees over to the left just a bit so there's more weight on the left sacrum. The right sacrum, maybe you could slide a piece of paper underneath it, but it's just tilting over slightly. Again, the arms can either be in bookend arms, robot arms, or out in a T position, whatever gives you, or reach back and hold behind the chair if you want to. But yeah, don't come in and out if you're feeling cramps. Yeah. So if you're feeling a cramp on this, then this is work. In fact, we'll do this in a second. Hang on. Inhale, come back to center. You can relax here if you want to, or get ready to go to the other side. If you take a break and relax, then come back into it. Belly button to the spine, bottom ribs towards the hips, towards the pelvis, and the side ribs to the floor. Now put the weight on the right bum. The left one, you could slide a piece of paper under perhaps, or more. It's not about how far it goes over, just enough to start to work the obliques. And breathe. So the whole 360 core is like cinched in with a corset. Everything's moving towards the midline. And then inhale your way back up to center, release, and just shake off any way that feels good. All right, you can lose the block for now. So here's a way. If you come into full beach babe with your hands behind your head, interlace them if it's comfortable, or hold. And then the elbows, not smack out to the side. Lift the elbows a bit. That helps you get the head of the arm bones back, and the shoulder blades can snuggle more onto the back, hugging the back of the ribs. And then the head is just resting in your hands, and the hands are lifting the head a tiny bit, like maybe your knuckles are still touching the floor, but the weight of the head is in the hands, and you're not carrying the head with your neck. Now, low back is still off the floor, belly button to the spine.
And here's the first stage. If you just slowly lift the left knee towards the ceiling, not too far, and slowly stretch the right elbow towards the left knee. It's not a big, like in the gym, it's very slow, very tiny. And then change sides. So you can change sides by coming back to center, releasing the head, placing the left foot on the floor, then pull the elbows in towards the midline, lift the head a tiny bit, just enough to engage the upper abs, and draw your right knee in slightly. It's not big. And then you just rotate the upper body slightly to the right, so the left elbow comes in the direction of the right knee without smashing your back waist on the floor. Back waist should still be able to slide a pencil under your back waist, or at least an imaginary pencil. Come back and release. So keep doing it that way. Or if you want a tiny bit more work, you'll lift the head, the elbows come forward. It's like making a hammock for the head. The neck is soft. You're not using any muscles in the neck to hold the head. The hands are just made a little hammock. You're just hovering off the floor a little bit. Squeeze an imaginary block between your knees and lift the knees just over the hips. So you can continue to do the slower 1 foot at a time, take your time. But if you want a little more work, come up this way. Keeping with the head up and the knees up, keep the ribs down. The ribs want to pop up. Keep them side ribs moving towards the floor. And then a little more work is to come up to the fallen down chair. And this one is very slow-mo. So you bring the right elbow slightly towards the left knee, and the right leg slowly stretches out. If you're feeling this in the neck, the head gets heavy. Then pull the right knee in like there's resistance, and slowly turn to push the left leg out, and you're turning towards the right knee. Very slow, so slow. Now change again. So it's like about a 15, 20 count. The slower you go, the faster you will realize that you stop using the core. Once you stop using the core, you stop and reset. Very super slow. If you're feeling this in the neck, then the core is quit and the neck is taken over. Just release the head back and pull it up and down as you go, so you're not using it so much. Oh, I don't know about you, but slow is harder. If we do it fast, my core is just quit completely. So release and shake it off any way that feels good. Windshield wipers. So we've all done this in workout classes or maybe even yoga classes where you do it really fast, but I find I can let go completely of my core and do it faster. And then I also get an injury because I don't have my safety. I don't have the connection that needs to happen in order to stay safe. All right, we are down here. So Allison has gone to teaching. The rest of us, let's do if you're on the floor with your blocks, one block is high, one block is medium. There's a couple of ways to do this. This is my favorite. Another way is to turn them to the side, but I like, if you don't have a block, just lie flat on for Shavasana, but this is a nice way to do a chest opener. This edge of the block, and you'll just come back and do your regular seated Shavasana, right? Whatever is good, the hands can be down if you wish. Right, so this edge of the block is going to touch right in between that spot you like to itch right there. That spot right there is where the bottom edge of the block comes. And then adjust the tall block under the head. The knees can start with the knees bent. This is a great way to start a morning because most of us will be upright the rest of the day, unless you're planning to take a nap right after class. So bless you on that one. Be grateful. But if you're going to be up and moving around, it's easier to slump over. So this is just helping us get more breath and be fully open.
If you want to keep the knees bent, then walk the feet out a little bit away from each other and pigeon toe the feet, turn the toes in towards each other enough that you can easily knock the knees together. Then you don't have to use any muscle energy to keep the legs up. Or you can gently and thoughtfully straighten the legs, back of the thighs, inner thighs move towards the floor. Feet stay flexed, but the legs don't have to be tightly engaged. Just keep them a little bit of energy so they don't flop out. If they flop out, it will cause an outer rotation in the hips and it can pinch the sacrum. And then you rest. Go deep and deeper. Go in and in. And here in the stillness, you can begin to notice the breath. Breathing in and out through the nose, invite your exhale to become longer, not forcing it. And just notice as you release and relax, the exhale becomes longer than the inhale. Begin to deepen your breath. Add gentle movement, maybe circles with the wrist, circles with the ankles. Then being mindful that if you're up on the blocks, not to fall off. So begin to stretch, yawn, and gentle movements to wake. And then bend your knees if you straightened your legs. And if you're up on the blocks, very gently lower yourself to the side. Otherwise, just roll to your side and rest there for a few moments. And rolling a little more towards the floor, use the strength of your arms to come up to a seated position and sit well, supporting yourself as you need to, any way that works for you, cross-legged. Oh, sun. We love it. A lot of it. Draw your palms together in front of your heart center. Thank you all for practicing with me this morning and dealing with all of my tech challenges. I appreciate you deeply. Namaste. Thank you.